stylish action games have always been the fun, cool-looking cousin to the regular normie action ones. See, your typical action game involves combating enemies out of necessity to make progress, whereas the stylish ones are all about pulverizing your enemies and looking damn good doing so.
Nice.
While not so much out of necessity to finish a level or complete the game, the combat requires a certain level of finesse and skill in order to pull off those cool looking moves and keep that high score as sexy as possible. It's more about pushing the offensive and enjoying the arcadey and over-the-top combat, which makes famous games like the Devil May Cry series extremely fun to play. Plus, how stylish you make the combat look actually shows how skilled you are with executing various combos, assuming you didn't turn baby mode on. But your husbando Virgil, his brother, and his son, who is lacking child support, are not the only ones motivated to show off how smokin' they can be. Enter Bayonetta, a stylish action game that's all about not only being stylish, but pretty dang sexy as well. PlatinumGames, who you may know for titles like NieR Automata, Astral Chain, my personal favorite, and Nanomachine's son, decided to throw in their take on the stylish action game, and considering that Bayonetta's director Hideki Kamiya actually created the original Devil May Cry, it's no wonder that both franchises share a lot of similarities. Fast-paced action, combo systems, guns aplenty, and a ranking system that will low-key tell you to get good, Bayonetta was an awesome and welcome addition to the stylish action genre. Not only was it a success, it also put PlatinumGames on the map, emphasizing the fun and arcade-like gameplay that a lot of their later games drew inspiration from. So after 15 years, and getting to experience some of the best stylish action games that the industry had to offer, it was time to revisit the very nice-looking Umbra Witch, and see how the first game in the series plays after all this time, and stare at her respectfully, as humanly possible. So, without further ado, here's a retrospective review on the very first Bayonetta. The story is, well, a story, which tells the tale of Bayonetta, who has no recollection of her past life and has been asleep for 20 years. She is aware of her witch powers, which she wields very naturally, but Bayonetta is also pursued by many divine forces who understand her importance. Now, if you've come to Bayonetta for a deep plot, and not the ones of the anime variety, why the heck are you playing this game? It's obviously not going to be winning any awards for its deep themes and writing, but it does have a fun and campy plot that's actually entertaining to go through. I do like that the game does try to give a lot of world building in the optional text for those who want to know more about it, but really it's the characters that make the campy story so fun and over the top. The exaggerated casts really play into their roles and add a lot of fun dumb charm that you can only find in games like these. Bayonetta herself is overtly sexy in how she comes off, but her playful callousness towards the other cast also give her that bit of fun, likable charm. I do like that she goes through a bit of a tsundere arc, and that she actually cares about the other characters.
Okay, Mommy.
Still overtly sexy though. A little over the top, but a very enjoyable character. The rest of the cast are just as fun, and their dumb, over-the-top personalities make the game so much more entertaining, like Luca being such a dork, Radon being a badass motherfucker, and Enzo, who sounds like the most over-exaggerated Joe Pesci I've ever heard.
If I could see them bastards that did this to my car, forget about it.
Also, Cereza is quite adorable if I'm being honest.
When I grow up, I'll be strong too, and I'll protect my mommy.
It's a fun, action-packed story that shouldn't be taken too seriously, and one that I enjoyed for its ridiculous campiness. Without a doubt, the gameplay is the biggest standout of Bayonetta, and what you definitely come to this game for. It has your Devil May Cry inspired combat system, where it's all about attacking enemies with a variety of different moves to keep your score multiplier high, and get a pat on the back when you do an amazing job. Yahoo! Or cry, cause you suck.
You suck.
Bayonetta herself gets to use a combination of punch and kick attacks thanks to 70% of her silhouette being legs, as well as guns, which are also attached to her legs. There's a couple of things that really make her combat system unique, the first of which is witch time. where Bayo slows down time during a last-minute dodge. A very cool gameplay mechanic that actually rewards you for good timing and defense, and actually helps add to your continued offense while you Zawardo some enemies to death. The next are the Wicked Weaves, which are these massive attacks that happen during or at the end of certain combo strings. Not only do they do a lot of damage, they also look and feel satisfying to pull off, and really make the gameplay of Bayonetta so much more impactful and punchy. Beside this is also the torture attacks, which are finishers that Bayo can use on enemies to kill them faster, as well as add a lot of points to combos. They're fun to do and very over the top with how they look, especially when some are very risque to say the least.
No, yes.
The last are the guns, which actually help extend both the combo and damage of Bayo's attacks when you hold down the punch or kick buttons. While not inherently complicated, it's actually a very cool system when it comes to maximizing Bayo's combo and point potential, because it allows you to lengthen them and even continue when you dodge during the attack. Something called dodge offset to be more precise. This prevents the combo from resetting, and you get to continue your offensive pressure. When combined with Witch Time, Wicked Weaves, and everything else in between, the combat becomes highly layered, and mastering them becomes very important if you want to go for high rankings. Of course, if maximizing combat potential isn't really your thing, and you just want to make the sexy witch do a whole bunch of cool moves and awesome finishers, Bayonetta will certainly scratch that action itch, and you can go full Unga Bunga to your heart's content. There's also a bit of an RPG aspect to it too, where you can buy moves, accessories, and items that can affect combat, even create a few in-game as well. The enemy variety is really nice in Bayonetta, and there's a good list of baddies for Bayo to defeat over the course of the game. The fodders make for some good practice as you master combat, and the later enemies will test how well you can put it all together. Though there is something to be said about how cheap the enemies can be sometimes. While I like a good challenge, the enemy attacks really do feel a little hard to react to, with some of their wind-up attacks being either difficult to read or pretty much just instantaneous. It's nearly impossible to react to, nor do they have any distinct sound cues for you to hear. It also doesn't help that sometimes the enemies litter the screen, and it's hard to find any visual cues for when an attack is coming. And if you decide to turn up the difficulty, well, someday I'll be able to complete the harder difficulties. Someday. The bosses in this game are actually quite fun. Pretty much all of them find a good mix between general combat and gimmicks that make them fun to fight, but also fun to watch. Some of them can be pretty tough though when you experience them for the first time, but they can also be fun to master if you're trying to platinum them. Outside of the general combat, the game does mix things up with changes in gameplay, such as an on-rail driving and shooting, and this is kind of weird to describe, on-rails missile segment that plays like a shoot-'em up. There's also a few fun shooting segments mixed in the form of minigames, and even during Bayo's combat gameplay as well. A lot of it is wild and very left field, but they're not that common, and I did like how they added some segmented breaks in between the usual combat. Plus, it was just more awesome, fun, dumb things to do. You could even say that the shooting segments also inspired some of the other gameplay segments of NieR Automata, which I also thought were pretty fun. Though I'm glad they took out the camera spin on the dodge, because holy crap, just looking at this already makes me Though the QuickTime events, as well as the button mashing, are things I could live without. The QTEs feel extremely fast, and they sometimes happen during cutscenes out of the blue, so it can be extremely frustrating when you suddenly take a hit, or you pretty much die. The button mashing is fun to do, but this game really wants you to mash for your life if you want to get the most points out of a finisher. Sure, I could get more, but my carpal tunnel says otherwise, and I don't want to have to replace my controller's left stick. Overall, extremely fun, over-the-top gameplay on all fronts, so your hands will be extremely busy trying to play this game. Just don't break them for the sake of a high score. And neither your spirit, cause you suck. Since style is the game's core philosophy, the presentation helps define what Bayonetta's style is. While being of the now dated PS3 and Xbox 360 generation graphics, the style and art design of Bayonetta are extremely gorgeous to look at. Each character has unique, identifiable silhouettes, and Bayonetta is undoubtedly the star of the show. Her lengthy physique, skin-tight suit, ebony hair, and extremely noice eyes and thighs make her such an iconic looking character. Her animations also add to her unique sexy spunk. Looking respectfully, looking respectfully, looking respectfully. The combat animations are flashy, full of colors, and extremely detailed in everything. From the visual effects of the punches, kicks, and bullets to the wicked weave attacks and climax finishers, the design is absolutely gorgeous to look at. The design of each level does show the older texture and modeling of the previous generation, but it's actually quite impressive how the game manipulates it to make a few set pieces really shine. Buildings turning sideways, falling in the air, or breaking into pieces while Bayo is still attached to them make it such a spectacle to watch. The enemy designs are also distinct, especially with nearly all of them having angelic-inspired aesthetics. From the fodder enemies, the more aggressive and bestial-looking ones, to the very epic bosses, whose amalgamation designs really make them feel very surreal and grotesque, all of which feel very distinctly Bayonetta. Sound is absolutely stellar in this game, on both the music and effects side. When it comes to the musical accompaniment, Bayonetta has a strong jazzy swing vibe that fits the tone of the game. It's both catchy and upbeat, and it makes nearly every scene in Bayonetta feel very intense, but also fun and lively at the same time. There's even a version of Fly Me to the Moon and a remix version for combat. As an action game, the sound effects are on point, with making combat sections and set pieces very intense and punchy, and they all feel very natural and appropriate to hear. The voices are all outlandishly fun to hear. As I mentioned earlier, the characters are very over the top, and the voice actors do an amazing job at emphasizing these personalities to their wackiest.
Do you naughty little angels deserve a good spanking?
Even with some datedness, Bayonetta's presentation is a spectacle to watch. Nearly 15 years later, Bayonetta is still an absolute fun blast to go through. The combat still had enough layers to make it fun to master, but also just the right amount of head-empty Unga Bunga that defeating enemies was always fun. Not to mention, it's really got a lot of style that the series loves to show off, and it's such a visual treat. Even with other games like Devil May Cry or Hi-Fi Rush that have their own unique systems, I think Bayonetta will always retain its own unique sense of style through its specific system and design. Even as Bayo changes things up for her sequels, she's still just as fun to play in her first iteration. A few things like enemy balance could have been a little more adjusted for the game, but it's still as fun as ever. If you're in the mood for a revisit, or just need a fun, stylish action game to sink your teeth into, Bayonetta will definitely satisfy you there. The game, I mean. But, you know, she will too. But that's gonna do it for today, guys. Thanks for sticking around. There will be more games to play and more videos coming soon, so please stay tuned if you'd like to see more. For now, I'll see you all next time. Bye bye!